Welcome to the Igniting Imagination podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Greenwood. Thank you for joining me for our special series we're calling Light on the Hill, Faith and Leadership in the Midst of Disaster. In this episode, we're heading to Kerrville, Texas, part of the beautiful hill country that was devastated by historic flooding over the 4th of July holiday weekend. The loss of life, the destruction of homes, and the disruption to daily life have been staggering. And yet, in the midst of heartbreak, there are stories of courage, compassion, and deep faith. We're joined by two leaders who have been at the center of the response. Reverend David Payne, who's the senior pastor of Kerrville First United Methodist Church and has been there since 2017, and Beth Palmer, outreach director for both the church and Light on the Hill at Mount Wesley. In addition to caring for their congregation and community, they've turned Mount Wesley, a camp and retreat center near the river, into a hub for relief and recovery efforts. In our conversation, you'll hear about those first harrowing hours, the pastoral and practical challenges of leading through disaster, the theological grounding that has sustained them, and the lessons they're learning that could help any congregation prepare to serve in moments of crisis. Our team at Texas Methodist Foundation and Wesleyan Impact Partners have been on the ground in Kerrville, listening closely to leaders, learning what's most needed right now, and what will be needed in the long months and years ahead. Our response has been rooted in compassion and care and a commitment to walk alongside these communities for the long haul, not just in the immediate aftermath, but throughout their recovery. If you feel called to be part of this ongoing work of restoration and hope, email me personally at lgreenwood@wesleyanimpactpartners.org, and I'll connect you with our philanthropy team. So now let's listen to my conversation with Reverend David Payne and Beth Palmer from Kerrville First United Methodist Church. Hi, David and Beth. Thank you for being with us today.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Yes.
I'd love to jump in with kind of brief introductions of you two. If you'll introduce yourselves and a little bit about your role, and then let's talk about the church a little bit. So, David, if you'll start, tell us who you are.
David Payne. I'm the senior pastor at Kerrville First United Methodist. I'm in my 9th year now. I've been here. I grew up in Colorado, came to Texas as a teacher originally, and then started working with a youth group and ended up in ministry and never left Texas. So
That's great.
Now we're Texans. So
yeah, we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Here in Texas. Yeah, great. Thanks. Beth?
Sure. So again, my name is Beth Palmer, and I'm the outreach director at Kerrville First United Methodist Church. And I'm also the outreach director at Light on the Hill at Mount Wesley. And I started my professional career was as a teacher and a coach. And then I volunteered at Kerrville First United Methodist Church. So my husband and I have been married 41 years. And when we first got married, he said, "You're going to move a lot. We're going to move a lot. We're coaches. We're going to move a lot." We've never left Kerrville, Texas. So I'm really fortunate. But our senior pastor at the time kept asking my husband and I both, because we were just volunteering. He goes, "Hey, quit that other lame job and come and work at the church." And I was like, "No, I love teaching. Why would I do that?" And then one time he asked me to pray about it. And I really had no intention of praying about it because I loved my job and wasn't going to leave it. But when I left there, I got to the parking lot and I said I would pray about it. I'm going to pray about this. And 2 weeks later, I quit my job and started working at the church in youth ministry and did that for 13 years and now transitioned into outreach ministry. And I've done that the last 12 years at the church. So
Great. I love hearing the story. I was asked to pray about it and I had no intention of praying.
I didn't admit that for many years, but
No, I'm sure.
Now as I get older, I'm more honest.
Yeah. No, that's great. Will you tell us a little bit about Kerrville, First United Methodist, and a little bit of your, kind of key points along the way, if you will? Help us understand your context, your people, your purpose in the community. Yeah.
Okay. Kerrville, we have a larger retirement population here, hill countries where a lot of people have as a destination to end up at in their career. And so you have a lot of professional folks that, as they come to the end of their career, come and are a part of this congregation and this community. Um, uh, but there's a whole nother side to Kerrville that you don't see from the highway and um, from the restaurants and everything. There are quite a bit of underserved folks, a lot of drug abuse, drug trafficking, sex trafficking, all those kind of things that are a part of our community that folks don't like to talk about. Um, this church, for a lot of its life, sort of focused inside, wanted to make sure that we had nice buildings, good music, um, uh, sort of known as the rich white church with good music for a long time. And uh, prior to me getting here, the church met, did holy conversations. I think that might be a
Through
TMF thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Did holy conversations and came out of that with the idea that they wanted to focus more on missions and outside the walls of the church.
Mm.
And uh, and of course, making a decision like that and saying that's what we're going to do, and then actually make it happen takes time and effort. And so they had started that process. Uh, Beth, who is one of the most prolific and profound ministers of the gospel I know, even though she's not ordained. She has a true calling in her life and went from being youth director to outreach director, and had us doing some things around the church and started community food bank, that kind of thing. In the schools with different programs. And we were looking to expand that and we're talking about building a facility for outreach so that we could house all that we were dreaming about. Meanwhile, Light on the Hill, which it was Mount Wesley conference camp for Southwest Texas Conference and now Rio Texas Conference, that had been sitting and being mismanaged for a while, and they were losing money on it. And so we started a conversation of what would it look like for us to take that over, and came to agreement in 2019, September of 2019. We started management of that, and Beth heads that up. So I'll let her describe more what we do over there.
Sure. Well, Mount Wesley, now Light on the Hill at Mount Wesley. I think Mount Wesley's always been a light on the hill, but now we're official with the IRS and everything. So, so we've continued to host spiritual retreats and other types of events and things that brought people deeper and closer to Christ. One of the things we have expanded is the social service aspect of this. So a lot of the ministries that were birthed at KFUMC, now we host and house here at Light on the Hill. So we had a small part of what we did was being a food pantry. And when the pandemic hit, I think we were probably the third or fourth phone call from the San Antonio Food Bank because we were small. But I think we were the first ones that had the leader say, sure, yes, we'll do that. And I remember getting off the phone and I probably called David and said, I have no idea what I just said yes to. So I get ready, so from there, just overnight, we went outside into our parking lot and opened up a drive-through food pantry. And We went overnight from helping, 40 families a week to helping 400 families a week, and from that, we were really intentional about the relationship building because that was one of the main reasons that our mustard seed food pantry was even born, was about the relationships that would be built from that, and helping remove some barriers for people to be able to access what they needed with dignity and respect. And so, so from that, it just exploded. And so every day we still don't know what God's going to have for us and what we're going to do. Really, we're just totally trusting. And so that's become our DNA. Is every morning like, whatever you have in line for us, God, prepare us, help us. So, because we know without you, we can't do anything.
So I want to clarify for our listeners, because you've named some different entities. And so I want to clarify for listeners, there's First UMC Kerrville, there's Mount Wesley, which is a retreat center that is still active, has sleeping rooms and a dining hall, nutrition center, um, which is also the location of Light on the Hill, which is another entity. I'm going to ask you to differentiate here in a minute.
Yeah.
And then you talked about mustard seed pantry. So can you pull the thread through those, but also differentiate?
So Mount Wesley has now been rebranded, renamed Light on the Hill at Mount Wesley.
Okay.
And our social services ministries that we do comes under the umbrella that we call Mustard Seed. We do small things, but with great love. And and through that is food relief. We have a relationship with the Methodist healthcare ministries. We house our Wesley nurses, community health workers, are all here officing out of Light on the Hill. And so we feel like one of the things we strive to do is be, we call it a hub of hope, so that when people come, we're able to help them and connect them to resources that are on this campus, but also may be off campus. So it's been very important to us to develop relationships with other agencies, other nonprofits in town. We created a standalone website, kerkind.org. So we hope that that is easy access for people that are seeking resources and people that are connecting people to resources.
So that website is actually kind of a repository, if you will, for the different resources that are available in Kerr County and
it's
in
like a
Kerrville.
resource directory.
Okay. So Light on the Hill at Mount Wesley is the name of the retreat center and the 501c3 that you all have stood up on behalf of the church. And Mustard Seed is the name of all the outreach ministries, the kind of umbrella for all the outreach ministries.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
All of which is part of FUMC.
Yes.
Kerrville.
Mhm. Yes. I think people are shocked when I tell them that Light on the Hill at Mount Wesley has no paid employees. So everyone who is commissioned to serve out of this place is either an employee of Kerrville First United Methodist Church, an employee of Methodist Healthcare Ministries, or they're an unpaid servant. And that's how we make it work. We have hundreds of folks that give their time and their love for their neighbor and for their Lord, and that's how this works.
I appreciate both the history and the kind of lesson on how you all have organized this, because you've been working on this for really a dozen years, but even the last 6 have gained some new clarity and standing as you have located Light on the Hill at Mount Wesley. And I think that's all an important backdrop for the events of July 4th and the ministry that you've been doing over the last 5 weeks, and with great care and tenderness, I would love for you to take us back to those early moments and days, because as we know, nobody saw this coming. So you all go to sleep the night of July 3rd, and so would you take it from there? And maybe David, would you
Sure.
start?
Yeah, so I went to bed July 3rd, happy I got to sleep in, but and we're right across from the river, and there's a big 4th of July concert that happens every year, and then fireworks. And so our front yard at the church makes great seating. And so we do a gathering, have live music and stuff. And so we're just looking towards that. Um, and then about 6 o'clock in the morning, I got a couple phone calls that I missed. And then when I finally answered the third one, it was the uh, fire chief in town just saying, "Hey, we need a shelter open." And we have tried to work well with our community. Um, Going back to COVID, the snow freeze event that we had here, some of those things we've developed a really good uh, trust with the county and city. And so I said, "Yeah, I live about 10 minutes from the church." So I jumped in my truck. I called Beth, um, and she missed my first call, but then called me back, and
Mm.
um, and her husband met me down at the church, and so that was probably about 7:15, 7:20, and as we were opening the doors, the first ambulance came with some folks that were wet and missing clothing, and obviously um, in shock, and so
Yeah.
we quickly tried to rustle up some towels and get them dry, and we had made coffee and stuff, and just started a list of who they were, and we're asking them, "Is there anyone missing?" And within a half an hour, as people continued to come, we had a missing list of 25 people. A lot of those folks um, witnessed horrible things. I think of one young man who he had his parents, his wife, and his two kids in the trailer with him. And because of the circumstances, speed of the water, um, he got blown out of the camper and grabbed a tree and then watched the rest of his family um, drift away. And there was lots of stories like that. Um, our staff, we have a great staff team here, and so uh, as we were going through that, the rest of the staff began to show up, and we just started trying to take care of people, get organized, and it, at the point in which we called, he said, "I knew it had been raining that morning, but we've been in a severe drought for a long time." And um, but when I pulled up to the church and looked over, the water was up on the road next to the church, which is an incredible amount of water, and the big bridge that goes across. Uh, knew it was big, but we didn't understand how catastrophic it was until as the day played itself out. Um, and um, of course, a lot of chaos. A lot of we're going to do this. We're going to send these people to you. You're going to be the reunification center. No, we're changing our mind. We're doing this, and just through all of that, just trying to, um, when I send folks on mission trips, or if I'm going on a mission trip, I spend a lot of time with people trying to help them understand that um, our opinions aren't always necessary, and to
Mm.
be a true servant means you submit to the authority of the place you're going, and so even with the confusion and stuff, we just tried to say, "Hey, we don't understand the dynamics. Let's just whatever they ask us to do, let's make it happen." And so started that. As the day went through, of course, with the stories of the camps, and especially the Mystic Girls, um, that became more personal. Our church has a very close relationship with the Eastland family, have an annual picnic out there. I go out every year and do worship services for each of the sessions with the girls and stuff, um, and was getting reports of the girls missing, and then that Dick was missing as well. And so that emotional thing is building as well. We had parents coming, just looking for questions. We had people just going from shelter to shelter, just hoping to find their loved one there. It was, and then Beth, why don't you take it from what we did that night? Yeah.
Yeah. So, at the time I thought, well, we're going to spend the night here at the church, shelter. And then late in the evening, we got a call that asked us if we could open up a second shelter over at Light on the Hill. And we would have the families that were not reunited yet, the families who were still looking for, missing loved ones. And so, one of our associate pastors and I jumped in cars and came over, and because we're a camp that if you come, you bring your towels and your sheets and and all that. So we were quickly trying to get those things ready while we were waiting for a bus. Actually, a couple of buses full of people that had just had the worst day of their life, and they're arriving, and it's midnight, and they have nothing, because as soon as they heard that their little girl or their parent or whatever, their loved one was missing, they got in their car or they got on an airplane and they got here. And so we were just trying to, get them into a place that they had a bed and a shower, and get them the items that they would need for that. And none of them cared about that at that time. They just were so in shock and just in so much pain and so much uncertainty and so many questions. And so we were just trying to just walk alongside them, literally walk alongside them, and show them, here's a place that you can, have, and let us know what can we do. And so that's one of the times, the first parents that I walked to a room. Because it's the elephant in the room, and I'm like, so who is your missing loved one? And it was twin daughters, 2 8-year-old twins. And I'm trying to like be strong for them. And it was just took me aback. So,
Yeah. All of it sounds and feels so overwhelming, and so much, and as you've said, so chaotic. Like you could just probably think of dozens of things and nothing that would help in those moments. And so, what happened? Like, how did you mobilize servants from the church, from the community? How did you think about the responses and the needs, and over those next few days?
Yeah. So, from the very beginning, the response has been overwhelming in Kerr County, locally and across the world, right? And
Yeah.
because of especially the image of little girls from a camp, that breaks everyone's heart. But the dynamic people didn't understand was after that first night, and they took all the campers to different secure facilities so they weren't intermixing populations, right? And so, apart from that first night, any of the girls that survived were taken home, right? And most of them are from various places. So we didn't have shelters full of little kids and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the folks that were affected, like from camping, again, didn't live here. And so there was a quick exodus of who they were, where they went. And so I spent a lot of my time trying to gracefully and sometimes not so gracefully help people understand what was helpful and what wasn't helpful
Oh.
for
Can
them.
you say a little word about that?
Yeah. When things like this happen, we're moved to want to do something,
Sure.
but especially when it's a chaotic thing like that, and like this has had an ongoing search and rescue or search and recovery aspect to it.
Mm-hmm.
As all of that's happening, people coming in with truckloads of water bottles and trailers full of clothing um, are not really as helpful as you might think. And I think a rule for folks, if I know I'm going to do this moving forward, is wait to be invited for resources,
Mm,
and
a
instead
good
of
word.
assuming that you know what's best. Um,
Mhm.
but at the same time, I mean, it was also very heartwarming to see the human response, like with all the darkness of what we went through.
Mhm.
That light of the goodness and human beings that just want to do something
Yeah.
was encouraging. Um,
Mhm.
and that's why I tried to be grace filled when I said,
Sure.
no, we don't need your stuff. But,
Yeah.
um, and then just for each of us, just trying to became aware like, of like our presence in the shelter. We wanted it to be a safe place for folks that have just gone through
Mhm.
trauma, right? So we didn't want a bunch of strangers walking through there and stuff. And so
Mm.
um, we we just asked our church folks to pray at the beginning, tried to get that word out. And at that time, you don't know how long the shelter is going to last and all those kind of things.
Mm.
But just saying, hey, we will put the word out if we need something, but right now the best thing you can do is pray. And then
Mhm.
just as staff trying to um, just encourage one another and you know, there's an adrenaline thing that happens in that you just sort of push through. Um,
Mhm.
I know the first time I really broke down was Saturday afternoon when one of my friends called to confirm that Dick had passed away,
Yeah.
and I just had to go in a closet in the youth room and
Yeah.
just
Just weep.
just cry. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and I think all of us had that moment, um, and we still do. We still do.
Yeah. Those first 24, 48 hours were so intense. And you were, as you've said, just trying to be present to whatever some of the leaders on point were asking of you all. How has the work shifted over these weeks? And
So,
where and what does it look like today? I guess. Yes.
okay. Um, I'll say my part, and then I'll let Beth share because
Mm.
we have sort of two different cultures that we're dealing with, um, and so it moved from the shelter and making sure the shelter was maintained. We had representation there 24 hours a day. It moved from that into sort of dealing with the ongoing calls to the church and stuff. We at one point we had 4 people here answering phones just because everybody in Kerrville First United Methodist Church scrolled against across the bottom of
Mhm.
all the TV stations here for a while
Mm.
because we were a
Mm.
shelter. So that was a church everybody knew they and so just that kind of thing happening. Um, um, I had learned from different pastors about long-term recovery and stuff, and so I invited myself to the meetings, to just have an idea what's happening and wanting to represent our church and our community and be a resource. Especially with faith leaders here in Kerrville, I'm blessed that I have uh, the staff that I have and have the ability to sort of lead beyond the local church and stuff, because of the help I get here. And so went to that. And that's been a lot of what I've been doing, organizing faith leaders, trying to be a part of the long-term recovery group. But then the other part that came with this event was the loss of life. And so I've done, I've got a whiteboard over here. I did 6 funerals, and one of those was a family of 4, local soccer coach and his wife and 2 little kids. And so, just the emotional weight of that. Not all of them went to our church, and in fact, only one of those was a church member. But whenever I go into a community, I always let the funeral homes know that I'm somebody who'll do a funeral for anyone, and we had a good relationship with Grimes Mortuary here, and he's the one that was, it's a bad word, but processing all the bodies recovered and stuff, and so. And so I've worked a lot with him over these weeks. This last week, I've got a couple more funerals coming up, but of river victims. But so now we're just sort of in the end of the first chapter, where everyone's beaten down and everyone's numb and everyone's sort of emotional zombies. But the realization of all that lies ahead is looming. Beth has been dealing more with people and their needs and stuff, so she can share about that.
So one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, we were a shelter for a week here with families still waiting word. And we also were hosting federal, state, and local law enforcement because we wanted to make sure we were keeping these families very sheltered from outside media and everything else. This is they're at their most vulnerable, and we were just trying to keep cameras out of their, faces. So we had a lot of folks here at Light on the Hill for that week. And then after everyone had left and gone home, we transitioned and have been doing that since, hosting first responders who were coming in as part of the recovery initiative. And we've hosted a lot of divers, a lot of groups with dogs. Those people are amazing. The work that they do it's unbelievable. And so the recovery of so many people is just, thank you, God, and thank you for these people with the skills, the sonar that's like on steroids. I mean, it's just it's unbelievable. And so we just had a group here this weekend that left. So right now we have no one staying currently. We have partnered with Mercy Chefs. They came in within 24 hours. They were here. I guess, fortunately, I didn't know anything about Mercy Chefs. And so that was an education on my part. I got a phone call saying, we're coming to your community. Where will we set up? And I'm like, who are you? And so since that time, I've learned so much about Mercy Chefs and what a tremendous organization and what they do. sharing Christ with others through food and other ways too. But so we've partnered with them. They are using our commercial kitchen here at Light on the Hill to continue their efforts. So they've been set up in a parking lot in a big food truck, and so they're coming in, and so it'll be twofold. They'll continue to feed folks that are here for this rebuilding time, however long that lasts. But they also have a community kitchen, and they're constructing that for our community. And in the meantime, they're housing here. And it just feels right that their community kitchen is called a Beacon of Hope. And the Beacon of Hope is at Light on the Hill. I mean,
Yeah, nice.
anyway, so yeah, so we're looking at now we have part of our campus is hosting, we always had, or not always, but the last several years, we've had a transitional housing program here that the gap that it fills for our community is more younger families that are working that for whatever, and it's very unique, whatever reasons they need that hand up for a short period of time to be able to catch their breath and concentrate on a goal or goals they set for themselves to be more self-sufficient. And so we just surround them with a place to stay. They pay rent on a sliding scale. Half of their rent goes into a savings account for them for when they launch out of here into more permanent housing. They have that to make down payments. And and then just walking alongside them with mentors and guides to help them. So now that program will be transitioning into housing folks that are displaced, have lost their homes. And so during the rebuild time. And also our campus will be used for rebuild teams that will come in and have a place to stay. Mercy Chefs will be providing meals. We hope that will be a real blessing for those that are coming to help us and a blessing, for our community. We feel that we're just called to do that at this time.
So where you might have otherwise had folks coming in and holding their retreats or their camps, you're putting that on hold and making your space available for mission teams and others who would come in as part of the recovery effort. That's tremendous. I so appreciate how you've moved over these 5 weeks to paying attention to what is needed now and looking toward the future. In other words, not just staying where you were in those first days, but really evolving and pivoting and paying attention to how the needs are changing as well. David, I want to come back to, and for both of you, to what it has been like for you as spiritual leaders in this moment, how you have cared for your own centering and well-being. You spoke to, the Saturday afternoon, 36 hours later, crying in the closet in the youth room, and it's such a poignant picture, and it's on, and then all these funerals, and you have more to come, and so how are you caring for yourselves, and what does that look like, and what kind of conversations have you had with each other to do that? And give us a picture.
So my spouse, Lori, is an exceptional person, and unfortunately, she gets the worst of me in times like this.
Leftovers, we sometimes.
Right. Because, you want to be strong in front of everyone, and then you get home with the people you care about the most, and then they get the leftovers. That's a good phrase for that. We've got a lot of folks praying for us. I've had a lot of clergy reach out by text, by phone call, by messages, emails, offering prayers, just knowing that people are praying for you and with you. That's been very helpful. I think that second Sunday, as I was preaching, I said, I think my role for part of this time moving forward is organizations have like a CFO or a CEO. I think I'm the chief grieving officer for our
Mhm.
church right now. Um, just to normalize that it's okay to be
Yeah.
overwhelmed with grief, and it's okay to say you're not okay. And we all are going to be processing this for years to come. So um, I'm trying to set a good example. I have never got, I mean, I had both knees replaced when I first got here and missed 3 Sundays. Um, I've never missed more than 3 Sundays in my life. I'm not preaching for the month of August. We have a new associate, Katie Tolson, who's preaching, and then uh, uh, Moody Memorial Church in Galveston. Over Labor Day weekend is sending a team down that's going to preach and do music for us so the worship
Oh,
team
what
can
a
have
gift.
a week off. And normally I would be like, we don't need you. I'm pretty possessive of my pulpit, but um, normally I would, but um, I, I know that I need that break. We've also talked a lot to each other about the need um, to take breaks and steal away where you can and find that breathing space. Um, and I'm trying not to be the do as I say, not as I do person. So
Mm.
um, next week, my wife and I are going to leave for 10 days to try to live that out. And that's, I've, I've struggled with that a lot and feel,
Mhm.
but also know that it's
Yeah.
something I need to do for
Yeah.
myself. But um, when I'm an Enneagram 8, so
Mm.
um, right, if it's going to be done right, I have to do it myself. So
Uh-huh.
um, I have to eat some of that and operate in my healthy place, not in my normal place. So um, that's uh, I'm empty nester, so I have mornings free.
Mm.
And so that's that time I can sort of uh, linger in the morning um, with my devotionals, my time with God and stuff, and so just trying to make sure I don't lose that practice as well, because otherwise I'm leading out of grief, anger, fear, and everything, and that's not a healthy place to
Yeah.
lead out
And
of. And so,
depletion and
yeah,
exhaustion and all
yeah,
of those things. Yeah, good for you.
I think that's really, I've thought a lot about how God comforts us, like in, I think it's Psalm 34, but like the brokenhearted and the crushed in spirit. And I feel that we're hurting.
Mm.
And, but I think that it's so important that we're crying together
Mhm.
and we're holding each other. And that means our staff, our community. Um, and I just think grieving together and praying and knowing that God's the only one that can comfort us, has been really, really important. And I left on an airplane Friday morning and came back early this morning, did 48 hours away to go see my daughter in Boston, and Light on the Hill is still standing. So, it's okay. And so again, we just have great volunteers. We have great staff,
Yeah.
and we all help each other out. So I would say we're very, very blessed, very lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. And a powerful witness, both of you, that you're taking time, that you're caring for yourselves, that you're crying together openly, like that's all part of the grieving. And David, this notion of being a chief grieving officer, usually when we have a chief anything, that person is like the subject matter expert, and you don't do grief dispassionately. None of us do it in a removed sense. We all do it because that's where we live. If you're the investment officer or the lending officer or the finance, right? It's where you live. It's the waters you breathe. And what a gift you are giving to your congregation and to the staff and to the community by saying, we're living in these waters right now. And I'm right here with you. And that feels so beautiful and important. Y'all, there's so many things I want to talk about, and so I'm pulling on these threads, and I wish we had a whole other hour to talk, but I do want you to talk about what some of the relationships that have been really important for you in this time, like, and I mean that in kind of as broad as you want to take it, the church, the other in the community, within the church. What relationships have really kind of surfaced as, wow, this is important. I'm glad we have this.
I think one of the things that's been really heartwarming and beautiful is the folks that we serve on a regular basis, our neighbors that, that we can walk alongside, whether it's helping them with food assistance or helping them get medical care or, help them, with job searches, whatever it is that's going to help their health and wellness, for how they've reached out and said, how can we help? We're praying for you. We know y'all are working so hard and also we've been very committed and very intentional in continuing to serve our community that we served before the flood. And we want to be that trusted presence. And so sometimes I think it seems it's been overwhelming to try to meet the needs of this crisis and then also continue all the other ways and things that you did. But I think we've managed to do it, and I think that we're really glad we have, and I think that continues to help us develop deeper relationships. And a lot of the folks that we are helping in our community, maybe we didn't know, but they were told from a friend or a neighbor or a family member, like, you can trust these people to help you. And so one of the things we've done, and like every day, our community health worker, our nurses are going to hunt. They're going to where the people are, that some of them are scared to leave their property, scared to even seek the help that they need. And so we're going to them and helping them because they trust us and we have those relationships. And so I think that's just been key to being able to serve in a deeper way.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I think for me, United Methodist pastor, I went to Asbury Seminary when I was, I grew up in Colorado, had been in Texas. When I was getting ready to graduate from seminary, I was trying to decide if I really was called into the United Methodist Church or a non-denominational type church or whatever, and got a clear sense from God at that time that, I'm calling you into the United Methodist Church. I had gone to a United Methodist church as a teenager and stuff, and that church had blown up, but the words I heard from God were, "No, that's where you learned about me, and I want you in that denomination." Well, 2 years ago, when our denomination was going through disaffiliation, there were times where I was wondering, well, is this my time out? Am I out of here now? And in the midst of all of that, there was a lot of sleepless nights with that event too, and a lot of chaos and stuff as well. But one weekend when I sort of zoned into just listening for the voice of God, um, the word I got was for a time such as this. I called you in. I'm not releasing you. You're here for a time like this. And now here we are for a time such as this. And the relationships we built over 8 years, the growth of our congregation, the focus that we have on showing Christ and being a light in our community. It's like all the things that we've been working on have come together in a way where you can just say, why couldn't you have told me all that in advance, God, so I could feel better about it? But
Yeah.
and then through that, it may not seem like spiritual work to be in the Texas Department of Emergency Management meetings or the long-term recovery meetings.
Mm.
In a lot of ways, I feel like I'm a chaplain there as well. Um, and I know maybe Kerrville is a little different than some of our more metropolitan cities as far as being open to um, faith leaders and stuff. But there has been not just a desire, but like a thanksgiving of folks of the churches present, and not just my church, the churches plural, um, presence in our community and what they do. And I think it's out of all the bad things, I think that's a place where there can be growth from this that you wouldn't have gotten um, through normal events.
Yeah. I want to stay here a moment because I think you're talking about something that's really um, foundational for the work of the church. And so most of our listeners are clergy or deeply devoted lay persons in the church and active and leaders across the church. And I would love for them to hear what you have learned about how congregations can be ready for crisis moments. And you've named actually at least 4 crisis moments, like not just what happened on July 4th, but
Right.
right, the Snowmageddon, as we affectionately call it, the pandemic, the turmoil in the church and disaffiliation and things that. So, what have you learned about how congregations can be ready? Because you never know. You went to bed on the 3rd and would never in a million years have drawn up this scenario. And I think you're getting at it, but I want you to kind of directly
Right.
talk about it.
So each year I sort of have a theme for my preaching.
Hmm.
Last year was about faithfulness to God and serving. This year was about discipleship of what it looks like to be a follower of Christ. Just this spring, we spent a lot of time talking through the one another passages in the New Testament, the Alelo passages in Greek, and talking about those and what it looks like. I mean, with the you could have count our elections into traumatic events as well. So,
Well, yeah, I guess you could add that too if you want.
right. And so just trying to everyone doesn't have to agree in order for us to share the kingdom of heaven and to love one another the way Christ loved us. And I think just that constant attention on keeping our eyes on Christ rather than doing what feels normal or justified has been helpful to helping us have a context. We try to
So the
celebrate.
theological grounding and the teaching and the what it means to be a disciple, and so I'm hearing that.
Right. And so, and just the opening up to, if we're going to do church in the world, it's dirty. You get dirty, and it's not neat, and it's messy, and which is what the incarnation is all about. That Christ was willing to do that for us, so we have to be willing to do that for others. And when you're an affluent church, people that look different, act different, smell different aren't always welcome. And there has been a heart change in this congregation to where we really are welcoming to lots of folks that don't look like us and don't belong. And that's only something the Holy Spirit can do. That's only something the Holy Spirit can do. But I think as churches, you celebrate that, right? We do a simplified model of leadership in our church, and then we do quarterly meetings, and we don't vote and stuff in those meetings. It's more of an update. And normal church, you do the finance committee report, and if it's positive, everybody goes yay, and that's the most excitement in the meeting, right? We try to downplay that now and celebrate how God's moving in our midst, and have members share, and folks that are new to the church and how they got there. Just applauding the work that we see God doing, and changing what was once celebrated as the priority of church, that we had a full bank account. Well, big deal. So,
If we don't know our neighbors, what do
Right.
we?
yeah,
How are we being the church? Right.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the culture change that's come about our faith community is just only could be something that God's hands did. I mean, we prayed about it, but it is truly a miracle what has happened. And I'm just amazed at how many folks within our church have, our family have done a real turn of, their hearts. Everything has turned, and it's just a beautiful thing to see. And I think also with just other faith communities, like coming together and not being like silos, but actually working together, knowing I always say together we're better. Together we can do more. And it's usually when tragedies happen that, I think back to 9/11, or, I just think that how we came together, and it didn't matter whether you were a Democrat, or it didn't matter if you were Republican. It didn't matter if you were Baptist, and it didn't matter if you were Methodist, and that's what's happening now too. And that is the part that, God has made something really beautiful and powerful come out of a real tragedy.
Yeah. So sitting down with you all last week in Kerrville, I think one of the things that I walked away with that just stood out more than anything else, that I've also heard you reference all throughout our conversation, is you were able to respond how you responded because you already were being the church in the neighborhood. Already you had relationship with city leaders. Already, I mean, when I asked just a few moments ago what relationships really ended up mattering during this time, Beth, you went straight to your neighbors that you're already in relationship with, right? You didn't go to like the police chief and the fire chief. Like you went straight to what does it mean to be in relationship with our neighbors who are showing up and saying, how can we help? And, but also you had relationships with fire chief. So he called you, David, right away. The trust that you describe, that you're able to be with these families, that's years in the making. And it's all these relationships you've formed. And so I'm so struck. And I was when I walked away on Thursday that you were positioned for this, not because you prepared for a crisis, but because you were being the church already. And, and so God was able to work in and through you and the Holy Spirit do amazing things. I'm so grateful for your ministry and your yes that has come over the years, over and over and over again, and possible.
I think that's really true. Someone did ask me about that, about it takes so long to develop trust, and they're right. I mean, it is. It takes time to build those relationships. And
Yeah. I want to end on this question, and I have half a dozen others I'd love to ask, but what's giving you hope right now? Where are you seeing light and life in the midst of all this loss and grief?
Well, I'll let David in, so I'll jump in and just say, where I referenced a while ago that, how heartbroken and crushed in spirit we are, but also I see so much hope. I see so much faith. I see so much love, and so I'm reminded how important those are, and that the greatest is love, and love for this community, and love for our neighbors and each other and our church. And so I'm seeing just we're hopeful. We're so hopeful. And I know that, our normal will never be normal. We'll have a new normal. And but we're still grieving, and and that'll go on for a long time. But I'm hopeful that this community is going to be stronger than ever.
Yeah, I think, a common thing in the funerals I've done, and that one for the soccer coach was held at Schreiner University, and there was 1,500 people there, and a lot of them high school kids. That you think of their life experience, 9/11 pandemic, contested elections, all of those things. And just the image that God's given to me over and over is the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. And just the images of light that you see in the midst of the darkness. We have people from all over the United States that have driven here to spend day after day in contaminated water, diving for missing loved ones, and folks that are carrying, moving, and all the debris that's a part of this, and all of the you have agencies and folks that are just pouring in with resources and energy to step alongside of us, and then just the heart of our community that is coming together. I've heard nightmares about this long-term recovery thing, and how it can just go bad if you got a bunch of personalities fighting for control and stuff. And I know we're early. I sound like a parent that's had a kid for 2 weeks. They never try. But I'm sure there's things ahead. But to see the goodness that exists within the world, we just, you don't hear about that often enough. You don't see that often enough. Youth groups that are that are praying with one another, praying for other folks, coming to work. It's hard not to see the hand of God in the midst of that. And the whole question of why did he let it happen? I think that's what I get asked the most. And that's above my pay grade. I don't have the best answer for that. But I know he's faithful and his mercies are fresh every morning, and that he's been with us every moment of this. And so, and I've already seen folks that are skeptical about God, or I've already seen I've seen spirits soften and hearts soften, and so yeah, hope is a great word. Hope's a great word.
Well, you too, both of you, are light. You are light. And I experienced it when I was with you last week, and I have certainly experienced it today, and I'm so grateful. Thanks be to God for both of you and for the work that you're doing and the way that you are doing the loving work of Christ in the world. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if I can, just for folks that want to know what they can do for us, continue to pray, because that mental and spiritual brokenness is going to be around for a long time.
For a long
And
time.
so hold these communities in your prayers, for sure.